Hey everybody, Crazy Cricket back again with another video today. Today's video I'm doing a video on my American Toad Moe. Now what Moe's cage is it's just a critter keeper. And it's extra large, I think it's the size. I think it's an extra large critter keeper. It's about 7 gallons, I think. It's bigger than a 5-gallon. I think it's 7 gallons. So that's what he has. He will eventually probably move into a 10-gallon eventually, but right now he's just in this critter keeper. Now for bedding, I actually have 2 different types of bedding. I actually have a layer of coconut fiber or eco-earth, and then I have a little bit of repty bark. And then I have that kind of divided in the middle, so he can kind of burrow under in the eco-earth, like bury himself in the eco-earth, but then he can also try and sit on the repty bark too. And then the repty bark kind of holds the water dish a little better. So yeah, but you don't have to use that. You can also use like moss and stuff. I don't have any moss in there right now. I might add some eventually. I might make it all eco-earth. Now for heating and lighting, I don't really have any heat or light on this cage. It just kind of sits in my room, so you know, my room is pretty warm because there's a bunch of other animals with lights on, and my door is usually closed a lot, so it usually stays warm. And as far as I know, amphibians, or a lot of amphibians, most amphibians don't need UV lighting, so I mean it can be beneficial for them, but you don't have to have it. Like, they're not going to die without it. Eventually, I mean, I might give him a heat lamp or some kind of a light fixture just to also light up his cage a little bit, so I can see him a little better, but he kind of likes it being in the dark. Like, he likes to be able to hide and stuff. So I don't really have any heat or lighting. In the past, with other American toads I've used under tank heaters, and I've had heat lamps, UVB bulbs. I've had different lights on them. I've had a heat lamp and a UV light on them before. Another time I've had a heat pad and a UVB bulb on them, just because I had it laying around basically. But you know, some of them I add heat pads to, but this one I haven't added any heat or lighting. So yeah, he probably will down the road. He'll probably be moved to a 10-gallon, and he'll probably get a heat pad under tank heater. What I got in the cage for him is I actually got a hide. I don't really know what this hide really is. I think it's a fish decoration actually that's meant to go underwater. I can't remember. I found it in the clearance section at a pet store, so I'm not too sure what it actually is. And then I got a little plant down here, and then I got a water dish. Now these water dishes I actually make out of clay that you bake in the oven and it'll harden. And then you can use it for water dishes. I always make my water dishes. I make a lot of water dishes in different hides. So far, they've worked real good. Now for feeding, I usually feed Moe crickets most of the time. That's all he really seems to like to eat. But I could probably feed him other things. I might be able to feed him some roaches, or you can feed him worms and stuff too, but Moe doesn't seem to like worms that much. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten him to actually eat a worm. I've tried super worms. I don't know if I've tried mealworms, but I usually feed him crickets. Moe is actually pretty fat right now, so, you know, I don't know, like, I think I fed him about a week ago, so I think he's about due for some crickets, which I actually have here in a container I'm getting ready to dump in. So, I usually feed him small crickets a lot, but, you know, I sometimes feed him larger crickets. It just kind of depends on what I have. So, I am going to be feeding him some small crickets today in this video. So, I got about 2 dozen small crickets, or maybe around 20 crickets. I don't know how many. And I got them in this cup right now, and so I just kind of put some in there from a cricket keeper that I have, and then I'm going to be dumping them in. Usually, you want to feed crickets that are around the size of the space between their eyes for toads. So, he technically could eat a bigger cricket, but I usually just feed him small ones. They're easier for him to eat. Also, with American toads, they can actually get overfed. So you just want to stay away from, like, feeding them too many crickets. Like, you can feed them, quite a few, but you don't want to feed them more than maybe a dozen at a time, like a day. But usually, you need to give them time to digest them, so I usually only feed them about once or twice a week. And I usually feed them, I don't feed him the amount of crickets. The amount of crickets you see in this video is not what he gets all the time. Like, he gets more than this usually. This is just for demonstration for this video. So, this isn't all he's going to get for this week. He'll get a lot more. This is just all I am feeding him for the video. So, I'm getting ready to drop the crickets in. Like I said, I don't really know how many. I just kind of shuck some in to this container. So, there's around probably 15 to 20 crickets in here. So I'm getting ready to dump in. So I'm dumping them in right now. And then some will fall down in front of him. There's one right in front of him. There. So, that's basically how they eat. They actually shoot their tongues out. Well, at least he does anyways. And so you can just watch him eat. So, anyways, usually, this isn't usually how many he gets. He usually gets a little bit more than this. And sometimes he gets bigger crickets. This is the size I have right this minute. But I sometimes feed him a little bit larger crickets. Like a medium or large cricket from a pet store would be probably the right size. Also, you need to make sure that they stay moist all the time. Like, as long as they have a water dish that they can get to that has water in it, they should be fine. Like, it's good to keep the bedding moist, though, so that they can kind of burrow in it. So they don't dry out completely. So, like, I usually like to spray his cage down about 2 to 3 times a week. And I make sure he has water every day. He usually always has water in the dish that he can get to. And sometimes I have let the soil dry out, or eco earth. He still has water in a dish. So, like, sometimes if I forget to check the cage, and it can be, dried out, but he usually is fine as long as he has a water dish, as long as he has access to water. Now, this toad is actually wild caught. I actually caught him probably 2-3 months ago, maybe, and he's been doing fine. I know it's not recommended to take animals out of the wild, although a lot of these toads in this area, like, he almost got ran over by a lawnmower. That's actually why his name is Moe. He almost got ran over, so yeah, I actually caught him and he's doing fine. I've kept him before. I've even had him live as long as, 5-6 years even, and these toads are really fine. You do fine in cages, like, it's never recommended to take anything out of the wild, but, with exceptions, like, you don't want to take endangered species out of the wild, and you don't want to take different animals that need to live in the wild, but, this toad is fine, and he's been doing fine for a while, so they make good pets if you actually take care of them. Like, animals that are, like, abundant, that are all over, they can be fine. It can be fine to take them out of the wild as long as you check with the local laws and make sure it's safe taking animals out of the wild. Make sure it's legal. in your area. It is legal here to take American toads out of the wild. It's fine to keep them as pets. I don't know if he's that hungry. Like, he looks really fat. Like, he might have just ate. But he also just sits there. He doesn't do much. Like, that's what they do. So, I don't know if, I'm not too sure if he's gonna eat again for the video, but he'll have these crickets gone over, a day or two, a few hours probably from now, they'll be gone. I almost forgot to mention handling. Usually American toads you don't really want to handle, and if you do, you want to wet your hand first, and then pick them up, kind of scoop them up, and then you can move them into like a container if you need to clean the cage. You really don't want to handle them too much. And as long as you wash your hands, they can be handled, but they might, eat on you if they get scared. They get scared very easily, and a lot of times when you pick them up, they do pee. So, as long as you wash your hands, you should be fine. It ain't really gonna make you sick, but as long as you wash your hands with soap and water, you can pick them up. It just, you only want to pick them up like when you clean your cage, like if you need to move them to a separate cage so that you can take all of the stuff apart and wash out the cage and all that. He does just fine. He lets me handle him. Some of them are too jumpy and won't let you handle them, and so you just have to kind of scoop them up in a container or something to get them out to clean the cage. I've had some that are very jumpy, but this one is one of the calmer ones I've had. So, I hope you like this video. If you'd like to see any more videos of Moe or any of my other animals, if you could, leave those down in the comments down below. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, if you could, leave those down in the comments down below too. Also, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Until next time, take care.